Communications Network and the operators of this radio.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. And as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon routine. I'd like to wish a belated Happy Mother's Day. I forgot to do so on Friday. To all the mothers and those who are mothers biologically and mothers otherwise, because you got a lot of people who never gave birth but have mothered a lot of children. I want to say a happy belated Mother's Day to you all. I trust that you had a wonderful time with your family yesterday, family, friends, whomever you celebrated with. And for those of you who, like me, no longer have our mother with us, yes. It was a day of remembering the good. That is, granted, you had a good mother. I had a fantastic mother who left us in 2009, but it was a day to remember her with love about all the sacrifices that she made. Moms are special people. God gave them the responsibility of, they say the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. So mothers have a tremendous influence on our lives, and just kudos to all of you moms out there who are doing your best to raise your children and give them everything that they need to be productive citizens. All right, so now that is behind us, last week, Thursday, I believe it was, C. Alan Johnson was the guest on the show, and we started talking. Somehow we got talking about I know how we got there. We were talking about the citizenship ruling of the Privy Council and the impact that will have on so many lives. And somehow that trickled to a question about what the Constitution states. And, C. Allen said some things that caused, well, a lot of people, I shouldn't say cause, but as a result of what he said, a lot of people ended up being a bit confused. Someone actually called and said, man, what this man saying? That ain't the same thing what the professors be saying every Monday, and you're all confusing people. I said, okay, I think we got to go back to the beginning. So I promised that we would have both C. Allen and Professor Thompson in the house today as we go over this question. So before I bring them into the studio, let me throw out the contacts about how you can call in if you have a question or comment. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, WhatsApp 801-0271, 801-0271. And of course, you can call us or message us on our WhatsApp line. We are streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm and Global 99.5 FM pages. We are also streaming on our YouTube channels. You can find us on Cable Bahamas channel 974. Last but by no means least, we are obviously on radio on Global 99.5 FM. So whatever you do, however you do it, now you know how you can tune in and chime in if you so desired. Okay, so we got some gentlemen with us on the show today. Our regular every Monday is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, because on Mondays here we do my class Monday on the Constitution. Professor, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Malcolm, and I want to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day. We had it on Sunday.
Yes.
And mothers are very special. My mother was extremely special to me.
Yes.
I was closer to mommy than daddy, I'll tell you that right off the top.
Okay.
Not that I was against him, but he was the two of them really were very strong disciplinarians.
Uh-huh.
And I wish we could find more men and women like my mother and father, because we have to do some serious work in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mothers have been carrying the burden. And I tell the men very clearly, without the women, they go on strike today, tomorrow. We're in trouble.
Big trouble. I'm glad you know.
So I appreciate the women who cause me to be in top shape.
All right.
When I come to the studio every Monday, they work in the background. The women are very, very productive, very helpful, and they get the job done. Without them, I could not function. And I want the men to understand that. The women, God made them to help the men. And men need to understand that.
That's another show altogether.
Yes, it is.
I want you to open that can of worms today.
All right, you could leave that for the time being.
See, Alan Johnson.
How you doing? To the Wild Bahamas. I wish a belated happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, those that I've met, those I have not, those that I've helped become mothers. And
wait, hold on now. You wasting Professor. Whom you helped to become. Okay. That's a good way of putting it. That's a very interesting way of putting it. You helped them to become mothers. Okay.
So I wish especially for those who treated me as a son throughout my life. Thank you so much.
All right, welcome to you both. Okay, so now we gotta clarify some things, because after our show on Thursday, we got a couple of calls on Thursday. People saying, "Man, y'all confusing us, man," because what's C. Allen saying? And the same thing with the professor is saying. And I think sometimes C. Allen does have a tendency to talk over people's head. Now he know that, and I tell him that all the time. You talking over people's head.
Yeah.
Make it plain. But in essence, he wasn't contradicting what the professor was saying. So I think we need to clarify what is a constitution, how constitutions are made, and why constitutions matter in this conversation. I thought it was necessary to have both the professor and C. Allen on the show together so we could fully understand together how this whole thing works as it relates to the Constitution being the supreme law. And yet we have all these other multitudes of laws out there that, you could afford to break that law and then go before the court and say, well, I didn't think this was valid because the Constitution say you can get locked up, bottom line, because you violated a law. So I think it is necessary that we clarify for the audience what is a constitution, how the constitutions are made, why constitutions matter, how does a constitution relate to other laws on the books, etc. Okay? All right, so I want to begin by playing a clip. When Professor and I first began this series, way back in February of last year, I believe it was, or something. Anyway, it was in 2022, I believe, early 2022, when we started this series on the Constitution. One of the first things I did was play this clip that I'm about to play again, because I recognize that many of you who are listening may be new to the show, maybe you weren't listening to these Masterclass Mondays for the whole time. And so I think it's important for us to go back to the beginning to get a clear understanding of what is a Constitution, how is it formed, why does it matter, how does it relate to other laws that are developed subsequently. So let's begin by answering the question, what is a Constitution?
Okay, so before we talk about what a constitution is, let's first explain why we need one. Let's start by looking at the fundamental things we all need as human beings. These are a voice in the decisions that affect our lives, material well-being such as food, shelter, and education, security and protection from violence or discrimination, and recognition and respect as individuals and communities. To help meet these needs, people create governments and delegate powers to them to exercise for the common good of society. The problem, though, is that while governments need powers to perform their functions, history tells us again and again that power without limits can lead to corruption, dictatorship, and oppression. Free, fair, and regular elections might help ensure good government. They allow people to select who they want in power and, over time, to vote out those who perform badly. But we also need some basic rules to control how that power is used, so that those who win elections still have to respect your rights and promote your interests, rather than using power for their own benefit. Just as in a game of football, there have to be rules and a referee. So in a democracy, there must be rules by which all the players are bound. These rules are provided in a constitution. The Constitution is a law, but it's not just an ordinary law. A constitution is a supreme law that establishes, organizes, and empowers the government and determines how other laws are made and implemented. It is also more difficult to change than ordinary laws, so that those in power cannot make up the rules as they go along. Football wouldn't be fair if the winning team could change the rules, and democracy isn't fair if those in power can just change the constitution according to their own whim. The Constitution harnesses the energy and power of the state, ensuring that the people control the reins. This explains why when people are trying to establish a new, fairer society, one of the first things they do is write a new constitution. This is what Norway did in 1814, India in 1950, South Africa in 1996, and Colombia in 1991. Indeed, nearly all countries in the world have a constitution to establish rules for using power. On the other hand, we've seen that when a democratic government is illegally overthrown, one of the first things the coup leaders do is set their sights on destroying the constitution. They don't want any inconvenient limits on their ability to rule by force. So the constitution both organizes and constrains power. Now, how does it do that? Well, there are several ways. One way is to divide power between different political institutions. For example, sharing functions between a president and a prime minister, or between two houses of a legislature, or between different levels of government, the national level, the regional, state or provincial level, and the local level. A constitution defines the powers of these institutions and regulates the relationship between them. It also ensures that power is rotated. One year we may vote for one candidate or party, but after a few years, their time will be up, and we will have the chance to choose someone else. This means that no one person, party, or institution can accumulate too much power or stay in power too long. It is important to maintain a strict separation between the political institutions on the one hand, such as the elected parliament and government, and on the other hand, the permanent neutral institutions of the state, such as the courts, the military, the police, and the civil service. Constitutions also constrain power by saying what governments must and must not do. For example, a set of constitutional rights may specify that you can't be tortured, that you can't be imprisoned without due cause, and that your freedom of expression can't be infringed. Other provisions may direct the government to provide for basic human needs, such as education, healthcare, sanitation, or housing. Constitutions don't only protect the majority. There may be special provisions for minorities and marginalized groups, for their security, their participation in government, and protections for their identity and culture. Most constitutions also have a nation-building function. They seek to embody national unity and to reflect and declare the identity of the nation and its people. The Constitution announces to citizens, to the government itself, and to the outside world what the nation is, what it stands for, where it has come from, and what its vision for the future might be. A good constitution is just one step along the road to a peaceful, prosperous, and democratic society, but it is a fundamental one. By setting down the rules by which the state should be governed, a good constitution helps to ensure that the democratic aspirations of a people become and remain a reality.
Okay, so even if we stop the show right there, I think I hope that video clarified for many people what the true role of the Constitution is. And unfortunately, you sit there and you listen to that and you look at where we are today in the Bahamas, and there are some clear, very clear instances where, either we need a stronger Constitution or we need people who can follow the Constitution, because there's some things that they talked about in that video that we are guilty of, but that's another show. But seeing and hearing that, gentlemen, I'm hoping that, like I said, that clarifies for our audience what is a constitution. I think the point that C. Allen was trying to make last week, Thursday, is that the Constitution is sort of a blueprint. So you're going to build a house, right? You know what you want the house to look like. You know, all of the intricacies of that house, but you still need to forward some kind of blueprint to build a house if you want to build a house right. Because if you don't follow the blueprint, chances are some walls could be off, some floors may be uneven. Your house is not going to be, as attractive or as strong as it would be if you followed the blueprint. So, Professor, let's get you in here first. Is that an accurate analysis of how we should see the Constitution as a blueprint? Yes, it is a supreme law, but as a blueprint that sort of directs us as to how we should be governing ourselves, what messages we're sending to the world about who we are, and how other or the foundation upon which other laws are formed. What are your thoughts on that?
Good afternoon, Bahamas. I listened to the comments, and those are very interesting comments. I think we need to look at that and apply that to where we are in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because you will find that in different countries, variations of constitutions will exist.
Right.
Okay? Depending on certain circumstances. He talked about minority groups in various places who may need special protection. You have to protect the minority as well as the majority. The thing is that in our situation, I believe basically what we have had a problem with, the Constitution that we have, which is the supreme law, is an excellent document.
Mm-hmm.
That's point number one. Point number two, you need quality people. And this is where I believe is a major national problem that has affected the Bahamas from the very beginning. The quality of the people you elect to run your national affairs has a direct bearing on where your country is going to go, even though it is written in the Constitution.
Mhm.
Another thing is the Bahamian people have to keep tabs on that government. We have failed to do that.
Mhm.
We have sat back and allowed the governor of the Bahamas to do basically any and everything it wants. And then people would sit back and say, oh, we'll wait for 5 years. There's nothing in this Constitution that says you have to wait for any such thing as 5 years. That's not there. What the Constitution says in Article 24.1, the very last phrase in that document, gives the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas the power to protect their interests. It didn't say you must wait for the government to protect your interests. It's the duty of the citizenry to protect their interests. That means when a government goes contrary to the Constitution, it is the duty of the citizenry to correct that government. For example, our Constitution talks about national commitment to self-discipline. You see how undisciplined our people are today? Where did that come from? Have we been practicing discipline? National commitment to self-discipline, national commitment to unity, and other things that the Constitution speaks specifically to as to the quality of life we ought to have. No man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their lives frustrated by deprivation, or their labor exploited. Do you know those three things have not yet been achieved in this country? People's labor being exploited, their lives being deprived. Do you know when you drive on these rocky roads with big craters in the road, that's unconstitutional? Do Bahamian people know that?
Well, not just that, but I mean, a lot of things that are happening in this country clearly are unconstitutional. When you talk about people have the ability to express themselves freely,
Yes.
Clearly, yes, there's been some movement in that area with regard to the opening of the airwaves, which was brought into existence by former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram.
Yeah.
But yet, when people try to protest, for instance, they're being locked up.
Yes.
They're being, threatened. There's still a lot of things that are happening that are contrary to what our Constitution allows.
That's
for.
correct.
And then there's some things that we need to consider. Are we talking about, we hear from time to time these various leaders say, oh yeah, we're going to bring in this term limits for leaders. But when that power hit them and that sweetness hit them, they forget that promise. They ain't want no time limit because they won't be able to go on and on and on and on and on. So it's a lot of things that are written in the Constitution already that if you look at what's happening in the Bahamas, you got a question.
Yes, you do. It's the quality of the people you have running your national affairs, and also the fact that the people have to keep tabs on their representative who sits in the House of Assembly, because basically we have one form of government, the Constitution being supreme. We don't have any local government except, that's what we have, what was called and is considered to be local government. That's not even in the Constitution. So you can't even refer to the Constitution. There's one House of Assembly, one Senate. You basically have one system of government, the national government. You don't have a government from your province, you have a government for Grand Bahama, etc. It's not there. And so even with this local government for the Family Islands, is that constitutional where you have the minority of your people, tiny minority for example, say they could run themselves, whereas on your province you got the vast bulk of your people. But the people in Fort Castle, the people in Centerville cannot govern themselves. The people in Baintown cannot govern themselves. What are we saying? So when you look at it, some things have to change. Then you also have all kind of boards and committees and this thing and that thing and the next thing. You had a prime minister pointing this one, pointing that one, pointing the next one. When is it going to end? Are there any limits to put on the office of prime minister in the appointment of all these different boards and committees?
Okay, let's get C. Allen in on this conversation. C. Allen, I think the point that you were trying to make last week, Thursday, is that the Constitution serves as a blueprint.
Yes, absolutely.
But again, you know, now make this plain now. Make it plain.
Right.
Go ahead.
The Constitution, as when building a house, is a blueprint for the house that tells you what is mandatory to sustain the structure of this house.
Mm-hmm.
It set rules for the windows, the doors, the concrete, the electrical, the plumbing, all those different things, the roof, etc. Now, first, let me just comment on Dr. Professor Sydney's local government.
Mm-hmm.
Local government in the Bahamas, there is no local government. It's a name. If you look at the structure of local government and what it does, it's strictly a name. It's like calling an apple something else. You know, another name. You say, this is Peter, and it's still an apple, because it's a glorified administrator, because the secretary, who is controls the local government, that reports to the government, is the same as the island administrator. So, but what you have is people who is totally ignorant of what governance is. I actually believe that if you get into a room and have a conversation, the secretary approves it or disapproves it, etc., and you have the illusion of choice. And they did an excellent job on that, and that was strictly to serve a purpose. We'll have a conversation one day to bypass a requirement for the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, that they wanted to do some things there. But going back to what a constitution is, in principle, a constitution does three things actually. It protects, it permits, and it prevents. It protects rights and certain things that you want. And so basically it says, and this is where we use the word enshrine. Enshrined within the Constitution is a right to liberty. It's a right to citizenship. It's a right to these different things. It has a blueprint that these are primary principles that is unmodifiable by your opinion. That's protection. The next thing it has is a prevention. It could prevent certain things. The beauty about the Bahamas is that in the purest sense, we don't have prevention. And some people argue that it prevents you from going longer than 5 years. No, I said it protects a 5-year term. And so, but what do we talk about? When we have prevention, we talk about particular rights and privileges. However, we do have, it's the third thing it has, it actually gives permission. And two examples of that permission in our Constitution is the marriage laws, and the second one is the gaming laws. I often hear Bahamians say that the Constitution discriminates against them, or the gaming laws discriminates against them. And if you look at the Constitution and what we have put in law, nowhere does it discriminate against Bahamians. However, it discriminates against residents. And the reason why you can't contest that as being unconstitutional, because the Constitution permits that law to be created. It's the same thing in marriage. It permits you to discriminate in the form of your marriage law and your marriage laws. And this is why we have in law, remember the Constitution didn't say, this is how you will discriminate in gaming. This is how you will discriminate in marriage. It says, should you create a law in marriage that discriminates, you cannot contest it as being unconstitutional. Should you create a law in gaming, you cannot contest it. In gambling, you cannot contest it. Because if you look, and oftentimes what people do is they take the laws of the Bahamas and they go and try to find these laws physically and verbatim in the Constitution. They are not so. The Constitution is the supreme law, but we have hundreds, if not thousands, of laws that submit to the structure to the rules of the Constitution. In the same way, a blueprint would say, these are the laws I have, this is a requirement I have. And as long as I find a door from the thousands of doors in existence that meets the defining principles that the Constitution says, then it conforms with the Constitution. And so oftentimes I hear people run around saying, my Constitution is, no, my Constitution says I can't do this, whatever. The question when we have laws is to test it against the Constitution.
Right.
And
That's right.
And so when you have a law, you said, you look at the law and you read it. First of all, you must understand, we need to have an understanding of what the Constitution is and what it says. Not what you want it to say, not what you believe it said, not what you've been told it said. And so when you understand what the Constitution says and you read a law, you can then go and read the law and comprehend the law. You can go and says, does the Constitution permits this?
Does it support particular law?
Right, permits this. And if there's a discrimination, you says, does the Constitution permits this? Let me start. You read the law, you says, does the Constitution, yes, permits this? And if just for discrimination, it says, does it permit? Like how you look at the marriage laws and you have people saying that we should have same-sex marriage. And the piece of the law that prohibits such, a male and female. And you ask yourself, does the Constitution permit you to create a law such as this? It does. So there's no constitutional challenge to that law. It's the same thing with the Gaming Act. Now, the Gaming Act, when you say residents are not allowed to game, not vehement, the law says residents are not allowed to game in the gaming houses. The question is, can you contest that in law? You can't, because the Constitution permits such a law to be created. An important factor about these permission, the Constitution permits these laws to be made. It didn't say it has to happen. It says if you do it, it cannot be contested. And so, with one other point, when you have say for instance, the citizenship laws, when you look at the laws of the citizenship, you look at what is protected in the Constitution, right? And we have 7 of those protections, or technically 8 if you count what is given to the foreign women. And so when you look at citizenship laws, there's 10 variations of citizen laws in the Bahamas, and 2 of them is explicitly, there's 10 means of citizenship, and 2 of them is not explicitly mentioned in the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, nowhere in our Constitution, it addresses a single man having a child outside of the Bahamas. Nowhere in our Constitution does it address a foreign man, notice I didn't say a Bahamian, a foreign man being afforded citizenship by virtue of marriage. However, it does afford a foreign woman the right to citizenship by virtue of marriage. And it's very important I use that word of foreign woman, because we often use the expression that a man confers citizenship to her. The Constitution does, the Bahamian man does not. Okay.
We have to take a break. When we come back from the break, I want us to, again, gentlemen, I ask that you speak plainly so that a 6-year-old can understand what it is that you're trying to, because the whole purpose of this show today is to try to clarify some of the confusion that is out there. Because Professor has pointed out several times where we have, for instance, things written within the Nationality Act that seem to contradict what is written within the Constitution. So the next question is, how are constitutions made in relation to how laws are formed? And how do you differentiate between the two? We'll explain more, or you guys will explain more towards that question on the other side, but we have to take a break. It's already 2:38. So let's take this break, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Global Paradigm Shift will return after this.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. And we are back. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here in your company on this Masterclass Monday when we're going to break down the Constitution. We sort of went back to the beginning to explain the difference between the Constitution and other laws and the relationship between the two. I thought it was necessary because clearly there was expressed some confusion with relations to this, and so I thought it was important for us to do this show. Before we bring our guests back in, let's throw out the ways that you can be a part of the show once again. We are streaming live on Facebook on the official Michelle Malcolm and Global 99.5 FM Facebook pages, also on our YouTube channels. Call in 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. You can WhatsApp us. Phone by calling WhatsApp or messaging us at 8010271, 8010271. And of course, you can catch us on Cable Bahamas, channel 974, and on radio, Global 99.5 FM. So in case you tuned in late, my guests today are Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, and C. Alan Johnson. I thought it was necessary to have both gentlemen on today because C. Alan expressed some things on Thursday past, and we had a couple of people call and say, man, you're trying to confuse us, man. And so I thought, you know what, let me have both gentlemen on at the same time. Matter of fact, one of the callers suggested that. So good call, caller, by suggesting that, because I think people need to understand the relationship between the Constitution, which is a supreme law, and other laws that are created within a particular nation, and how the two meet, how one impacts the other. So before we go any further, I want to play another clip, and this clip is about how constitutions are made. How constitutions are made.
The Arab Spring, the end of apartheid in South Africa, the fall of the Berlin Wall. When the war ends, when a nation reaches crisis point, when the dictator falls, it's at times such as these that the call for a new constitution is at its loudest. Constitution making has high stakes. Difficult and far-reaching decisions must be made about the direction the country is to take. So we should take special care in designing the process. But we can't just rush ahead and start writing. The first step may be to think about where we have come from, where we are going, and how we'd like to get there. It can be a lengthy process, often taking several years. The road may be long and winding, but we should avoid shortcuts. Because the journey involves building agreement and trust, it is as important as the destination itself. That's why it is crucial to plan the route in advance and make sure everyone is on board. So how do we design the process? Who writes the Constitution and how do they do it? Most constitutions claim to be made by we the people. Millions of people might adopt a constitution in a national vote, but how do millions of people write with a single pen? The actual writing of that constitution is entrusted to a constitution-making body. This can take many forms. It may be an elected or appointed group of people, small or large. Benin's constitution-making body was a national conference of almost 500 members, while Kenya used a committee of just 9 experts. Spain's constitution was written by a 7-member parliamentary committee, and Tunisia elected over 200 people to a constituent assembly. This body will do the hard work of drafting and negotiating a constitution. Disagreements are likely, and debates will be heated. The most difficult thing is not putting words on the page, but building the consensus that allows different groups to come together and agree on a constitution that truly reflects the needs and aspirations of the people. So whatever type of constitution-making body is chosen, the process must include opposition groups as well as the government, women as well as men, the poor as well as the rich, young and old, and minority ethnic, religious, or linguistic communities, as well as the cultural majority. Either all these voices must be included in the constitution-making body, or the body must reach out and take heed of all these voices. We the people means all of us. So the constitution-making body needs to engage the public in a national debate. In Kenya, drafts were circulated on the internet and in newspapers. In South Africa, over 1,000 public consultations were held countrywide. In Tunisia, people watched debates on TV and discussed the issues on social media. To do its work, the constitution-making body needs financial and technical support from government, civil society, and often the international community. But crucially, it must stay independent from anti-democratic or illicit special interests. Once the final draft is ready, the new constitution can then be adopted in the name of the people. Typically, this happens by referendum or through a special majority vote of elected representatives. It is at this great symbolic moment that the Constitution becomes ours. But we haven't reached the end of the road yet. The process continues beyond just approving the text of a constitution. If it is to be more than just words on a page, the new constitution must be implemented. Institutions must be created, elections held, appointments made. Laws and policies must be brought into line with the constitution, so that it can bring real change to people's lives. If the process has been legitimate and inclusive, and if the people feel they are the authors of the Constitution, The Constitution will defend and protect democracy for generations to come.
Okay, so I think that video did a really good job of describing the process. And key to what was said, well, there are many, many important things, but one of the very last things the video talked about was the role that the Constitution plays as it relates to the development of laws in the country. Because I think what has happened is that people have been listening to this series of shows, and we keep stressing, rightfully so, that the Constitution is the supreme law. And people seem to think that because the Constitution is a supreme law, that we then should, I might be pushing it too far, but we then should not put as much credence on other laws because the Constitution is the only law that we should be paying attention to. And that, quite frankly, is not correct. Would you agree, gentlemen?
Yes, I would agree. The point of that is that the Constitution gives them the right to create laws.
Exactly.
That is part of the Constitution because all the laws is not there. In fact, none of the laws is in the Constitution. Believe it or not, if you look at it in the purest sense, however, the laws, when they are created,
are based on the Constitution.
You test those laws to see
against the
protection that the Constitution mandate. Is it in all these? Is it in these laws? It's 100% of the protection in the laws. And if any of the laws that conflicts with what you consider your right, you ask, does the Constitution permits this to occur? Like I said, in the Bahamas, we have very few of those. And you look for prevention. We don't really have any of those. But so what happens is if we look at the hundreds of thousands of laws that we have, some old, some antiquated, some just sitting around, we just have to simply look at them and say, we live by laws. We are protected by the Constitution, which governs those laws. And so we look at the laws and say, is there a prohibition in this? Then it can be done. Is the rights that I believe I have, is that protected in the Constitution? It does. And so when it's protected in the Constitution, there's no negotiation. There's absolutely no negotiation. And for those who like to use the word, the Constitution discriminates. No Constitution in the world discriminates. The Constitution is, for lack of a better word, God. If the Constitution says it, it's not a discrimination. You could feel how you want. You could interpret how you want. The Constitution sets the guidelines. It is. I may scream that I'm a resident of the Bahamas, and I believe the Constitution discriminate against me because I'm a resident and I can't go into the casinos. It doesn't matter how I feel. Okay, am I to say the Constitution is discriminatory? No, but understand this: the Constitution it says that in that permission, right? Understand the word permission, which is different than protection. The Constitution gives you the right to do it. It doesn't give you the mandate to do it as it does for protection. It simply says for desire of good governance and the development of the country, you may want to do this. When they were creating the laws concerning marriage, they were concerned about the principles of Christian values. And so they put in there means to protect at a particular time. If you go back and you see there's some things that existed, even if you say gay marriage did not, same-sex marriage, I just say gay, same-sex marriage didn't exist. There was polygamy or polyandry existed, where a man could have multiple wives, whatever the other one is, where the woman could have multiple husbands and these different things. So we put in our Constitution, one man, one wife, same man, I mean, one female, one male, same female, same male. And that's the limit we put. And so you couldn't come and say the Constitution permits marriage, but I could have 5 wives.
Right.
And so these are and it's not that complicated. But so now we go to the thousands of laws, and this is time for us to look at our laws one by one.
So
okay?
let's get
right. Just the laws and the penal codes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we begin to examine them one by one, we may take them for granted they've been done for decades. It doesn't make them right because your habit of what you've been doing. And so we simply look at laws one by one and then test it against the Constitution and says, is what this law says conforms with the boundaries set by the Constitution? And if it isn't, throw it out.
Okay, I want to read a comment and then I'm going to bring Professor in here. This comment says, this is from Siobhan Hollis. Siobhan says, as I listen to your show, I reflect on almost 50 years of our people being oppressed and living in mental bondage, and for many, still not knowing their constitutional rights as Bahamians, equally not wanting to learn the truth of what is really going on in our country. This show is indeed bittersweet. Thanks to you for opening up this Pandora's box. Now, Professor, you talk about it all the time. And you all often talk about how you are so excited that people are now paying more attention and more interest, paying more attention to and more interest in the Constitution. Because key to all of this discussion is the public's knowledge of the contents therein of the Constitution. So when laws are written, separate and apart from the Constitution, they can compare the two to say whether or not those laws line up with what is written in the Constitution. But key to that is you can't compare if you don't know what's in it to begin with. Now, I would have said to you guys, your homework is to download, go online, Google it, download the Constitution for these master classes so that you have it in front of you and you can go through it as we go through it, line by line, article by article. But Professor, you are always talking about the importance of people knowing and understanding what is in that Constitution so that when a new law is enacted, because as C. Allen rightfully points out, there are many laws. The Constitution isn't the only law, even though it is the supreme law. So I want you to break down for our audience, Professor, the difference between the supreme law and the other laws that exist on the books.
That is a good thing that you just said. And I think the Bahamian people need to understand, and that is why we were going through those classes from the time we started to explain in simple, basic, fundamental language, constitutional law.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't delve into statute laws. But Article 52.1 of the Constitution says Parliament may pass laws, 3 specific reasons: for the peace, 1, order, 2, good governance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Now, any law passed by Parliament, statute laws, that's what they are, different from the Constitution, should have those 3 ingredients in them. If the statute laws do not have those ingredients in them, they would be unconstitutional right off the top. Is it for the peace? Is it for the order? Is it for the good government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? Those 3 ingredients are extremely important. Article 52.1. Now, the Constitution is the supreme law. It is never, ever wrong. It is always right. And people need to understand that. This is this big mirror you look through, and everything is exposed when you have these, the Constitution being the main law. You look at everything in light of your Constitution, whether it's all these agreements that were signed by the government of the Bahamas over these many years. Most of you don't even know what they are in the first place. They send people away to sign all kinds of different things. Then these heads of agreements that the government has signed, we're not familiar with that. All of those things have to be looked at in light of your Constitution. So when you look at the law, the statute law, you have to ask yourself, is it constitutionally sound? The only way you're going to know that is if you know what is in your Constitution. That is a key factor. If you don't understand what is in your Constitution, you're going to be misled and deceived. Statute law cannot supersede constitutional law. And I think the Bahamians See, the problem in our country is the Bahamian people have never been taught any law. We've been kept in the dark for 56 years and 4 months since majority rule. So it is going to be kind of difficult for the average person to understand. Now, I am delighted. I am very delighted. I waited 50 years, Ms. Malcolm, for this to happen. 50 long years for the Bahamian people to wake up to the fact that they have a constitution. And after 4 specific factors that have occurred in this country over that period of time, 1, the death of Her Majesty the Queen. 2, the ascension of Prince Charles as King Charles III. 3, the massive internal pressures that are placed upon the backs of the Bahamian people. And number 4, the external pressures from people on the outside trying to push the country this way, that way, and the government of the Bahamas being pushed in all different directions. Everybody want to tell you what you must do, and they themselves won't do it. But they want to tell you what to do. No people outside of this country should be telling the government of the Bahamas what to do when it comes to the Bahamas. The Bahamas government ought to be consulting with the Bahamian people. But I hear them talking about some other people who are not even Bahamian. So how we get like that? So the thing is that we have to make sure that we keep tabs on the government of the Bahamas. And I know this is something we have not been doing, but we got to start doing it. I tell the people after they done wake up now, you got to stop not knowing and start knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. So I'm just delighted that people are screaming out, they're crying out, they're asking. And I remember one particular talk show host, one of the leading ones in the country, said publicly on his own show, where the questions were coming in fast and furious, he admitted that he was not qualified to answer the questions. He needed someone to help him.
Right.
Now, I wish others would do the same thing, because others out there who got these microphones in their faces, putting out misinformation, which adds to the confusion of the Bahamian people.
Okay.
Just tell them you don't know.
We have a call. We have a call on WhatsApp. Caller, welcome to GPS. Caller, you there?
Ms. Malcolm.
Yes.
Pleasant good afternoon to you and your panel.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm listening to your talk show right now. And I want to say to you.
Caller, can you take us off of speakerphone? If you have us on speakerphone, please.
We're not hearing.
Okay, I want to say unto you. I want to say unto you.
Mm.
Continue to do the work that you're doing. But I want to say this. One of the things we must understand is if any government can bypass the laws of God, the Constitution is a joke. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got both political parties who simply have no respect for the Bahamian people. That's why we are yet to see a bill of transparency. Right? And tell the people in this Bahamas rise up and get rid of both of these parties. We're going to continue to see it because the United Nations are the ones who are pulling the strings. Okay, we just talk about being an independent country. We are not. Because we've got these clowns who are just puppets. Okay. Their strings are being pulled and they've sold their soul, number one, to Satan. They've sold this country out and they've sold their souls out. And so I bless God for your panel, and the gentleman who's speaking just now, he's right on target. But like I said, the Constitution, anytime a man can break the laws of God, when you don't have respect for God, you ain't gonna have no respect for the Constitution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Can I make a point on that?
Please go ahead.
One thing he said is to get rid of the two political parties. Let me ask you a question. If I am a member of the PLP or FNM and I move to a new political party, does it change who I am and what I believe? The problem is us, the people, not the dressing up of the choices we have. What you have is two brands that's established themselves. And it's more important, though, is to choose the right people that understands what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
And the problem is that regardless of the PLP, FNM, Coalition of Independents, Farmers Christian Party, DNA, whatever, we have not done a good job individually and collectively in choosing the proper leadership to send to our House of Assembly. And as we talk about this Constitution, and Professor Thompson said the same thing, is that you have people in Parliament that chances are some of them have never read the Constitution, but they're seeking to create laws. And if they understood the Constitution and the creation of these laws, they would say, hey, hold on a second. These laws that we're about to pass violate some things within the Constitution, and they should not even be for discussion in the House of Assembly. And what is greater, what Professor Thompson has been trying to do is educate people, because those members of Parliament has to answer to their constituents. And it's important now for constituents to become involved and demand that members of Parliament come to them individually when a law or something is about to be passed. And if you as a constituent understand the Constitution, you could then challenge that member of Parliament as to the law that he says or she says that they will support. And we could begin to have better governance. But they've done a good job of having us scream at the ban instead of the farmers. And so let's not scream at the political parties. Let's get to the people that we send into the House of Assembly and challenge them individually. I'm not saying not to challenge them collectively, but if each of us, a small group of us, 5 in every constituency that understands this Constitution, and every time a law is about to come up, in the same way they come to you for their vote, let them know they're obligated to consult with you, whether you're going to sign an international agreement, whether you're going to sign a heads of agreement, or anything else, that they should consult with you. Or, say, for Central Grand Bahama, don't come back in 2026. Don't say you spoke to me or spoke on my behalf and never did, because that makes you a liar. And I won't re-elect a liar.
Okay. I have, go ahead, Professor.
No, see, Alan is correct in all that he just said. I've been saying it all along, and he agrees with that. So we're on one accord when it comes to that. And the point is, getting rid of political parties, that's unconstitutional. The Constitution allows political parties. You can't see, people have to understand what they're saying. And I can understand perhaps where the gentleman is coming from. He just has some things mixed up. Political parties are allowed under the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Now, you may be a member of a political party. You might even be affiliated with a political party. That political party may put up a candidate, and probably will put up a candidate, in an election, if it's a by-election or a referendum, whatever. The point is, you do not have to vote for that particular personality if you are convinced that that person cannot be a proper person as a parliamentarian. Now, see, we have been a poor judge of character. We believe because we are affiliated or connected to a political party, just like you go to St. Barnabas Church and you work to BTC. You don't tell the man when you go to BTC, I'm a member of St. Barnabas Church. He wants you to do the job at BTC. Neither you tell the people at St. Barnabas Church, when you go to church, all y'all leave your jobs and come to BTC. You don't ever get mixed up with that. But when it comes to choosing a representative in a given constituency, you have all of these people who ought to be coming together in a discussion to choose the appropriate person. You call them constituents in a given constituency, not political parties. That's a whole different kettle of fish altogether. When you go into the polls, you're choosing a representative. You've already chosen a political party. You could keep that, because a political party could exist. It don't have to be in the government. When you're talking about having, one, a representative in the House of Assembly, that's one. Number two, choosing a government to run your national affairs, you're dealing with a totally different kettle of fish from just a political party. And people need to understand that Bahamians have gotten it mixed up for the last 56 years and 4 months. The purpose of a political party, what is that purpose? The purpose of the government of the Bahamas, what is that purpose? What is the purpose of a representative? All of those things are explained in your supreme law. They all have roles to play. So I'm not going to knock political parties because that's unconstitutional to do that.
I want to read some
But
comments.
Michelle said this. If they understood what Sydney just said, then you'll understand why local government doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
I want to read a couple of comments from Facebook. Lloyd Boleg says MPs make no sense because they do what the PM says. Bahamians vote for party, not individuals. How do you respond to that? I mean, that pretty much you're saying that that's the problem, and we need to change that. Is that what you in essence are saying, Professor?
No, what? Yeah, you're quite right. What I'm saying is, just like I said, you're a member of St. Barnabas Church, but you work the BDC.
Right, and you don't mix up the two.
You don't ever get them mixed up. How come you got that clear in your head? You go to St. Barnabas Church on Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whenever they have service. You never get mixed up on that. And you never tell those people who go to the church, St. Barnabas Church, leave your job 9 o'clock Monday morning, you come to BDC.
And all of them in there.
And all of them just come rushing to BDC because they want a job.
The point is they all have different vocations, but they find a way
But
to
they
agree.
find a way to cooperate in St. Barnabas Church.
Right.
Well, then the same principle applies to the constituency. Same people, different churches, different beliefs. What is common to the people in a given constituency? We don't even consider that. There is commonality. That's why you have Article 24.1. It is the duty of the people in a given constituency to protect their interests. That's the last phrase in that article. And we've overlooked it.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Michelle. When you ask why you don't get what you want, that last statement by Mr. Thompson is correct. It's because you haven't sent anybody there to protect your interests or advocate for your interests. You sent somebody there that the party sent you. They said, choose this party or that party. You never paused and says, who's the best person to represent what it is that we in this constituency would like to achieve or to be heard in the House of Assembly. And so when you choose a party and you get a party, nothing but partying, then you understand why. You should be choosing a person that is competent and understand the needs of that community in relation to the needs of the country. And when you begin to elect individuals and demand that, if you start demanding that now, I promise you the next political party will not send you another clown. So when you get to parliament, you see that you have a circus. It's plain and simple. And so start demanding now. But see, what happens is we even have individuals who say, my navel string is buried here. And they have never been back to that community. They have no understanding of the needs of that community. And their great-grandfather or grandmother or somebody was there. And so, again, they did not choose someone from their constituent that understand the needs or even live in the immersive environment. Yes. And so when we begin to choose better candidates, and from among those group of candidates, the best from amongst them to serve us, we'll get better parliament and then try and get a better government.
Well, let me just say this because we have to take another break, but I think I need to say this based on what you just said. Not just because somebody lives in a particular community means that they're going to be a good representative, because we have had cases of people who live within the community and get elected because people are thinking along those lines, and then they go in there and they taste that sweetness of power and they start enriching themselves, and when they do get booted out 4.5, 5 years later because they didn't do anything for the community, they straight. They live in all kind of mansion and thing where they wasn't living before they gone in there, but they came from within that community.
Michelle, it was contaminated with the party choice. You know who the credible people within your community. But when the party says yes, you know what it is? An illusion of choice. They tell you, do you want to be shot in the head sitting down, or do you want to be shot in the head standing up? They never give you the option of not getting shot at all. And so and so that's where the problem is. You have a right to reject them, but when you as a community begin to take a stand that these are people that know, we know our community. But when you park your community and choose your party, you get what you get. And that's what we've been doing.
Okay, we
So
got to
this
take
is
a
why
break.
people within our community don't even offer, because they already know if I go up, you can choose the clown. Like you say in the Jesus choice, he said they're going to choose Barabbas, not Jesus. So they don't even offer.
We got to take a break. So let's go to this break. When we come back on the other side, for those of you who are joining us late, we're trying to clarify what is the Constitution in relation to other laws. When we come back on the other side, why do constitutions matter? We're going to tackle that after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us. This is GPS on Global 99.5 FM.
Global paradigm shift will return after
Your
this.
body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This is Global Radio 99.5.
Welcome back to Global 99.5 FM. GPS is on the air. My name is Michelle Malcolm. My guests today are Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, and C. Alan Johnson. This is a masterclass Monday on the Constitution. Before we dive back into the conversation, I want to play one more clip, and this is a very important one I want y'all to pay attention to. Because I've actually heard people who are supposedly intelligent say things like, well, yeah, the Constitution may say that, but, sometimes you got to ignore the Constitution when it fits in with whatever the party or whatever that they support, we go in this country. Instead of looking at national interests, we look at party interests. And I've actually, personal interests. And I've actually heard people say, well, Professor, you talk about how somebody tell you that's just words on a paper. That don't mean nothing. Yes. So pay attention to this clip. For those of you out there who think that, man, yeah, whatever, I ain't got to listen to the Constitution. Think again. That's a very dangerous ground to be walking on. And here is why.
They say that a constitution can change things. But how? After all, a constitution cannot build a road, school a child, provide drinking water, or heal the sick. Yet constitutions have a profound effect on how well a country functions and, as a result, on the quality of life of its citizens. The state needs a powerful engine to do the things that we need it to do. But that power has to be under control. A good constitution keeps the power of the state under public control. It puts the people in the driver's seat, ensuring that the government represents and is responsible to ordinary citizens. To understand the difference that a good constitution can make, let's look at the fictional country of Ruritania, as it was 10 years ago. Ruritania has many problems. Unemployment is high. Opportunities are few. Young people are angry. Old people live in despair. And it's a mess. There's garbage on the streets. Often there's no electricity. The roads are full of potholes. The schools are overcrowded, and the sick cannot get the care they need. People are not treated with respect. And for minorities, it's even worse if they don't speak the language or practice the religion of the majority. The courts and the administration are corrupt. And if you don't have a connection or the money for a bribe, you'll always be at the back of the line. Why is this so? Well, it's not because Ruritania is poor. It has lots of resources. Those who are in charge, who are well connected and close to power, have plenty of money. They feast while the poor go hungry. They run Ruritania for their own personal benefit, not for the benefit of the people. And at the head of the table sits the president, the old man. He's been in charge as long as anyone can remember. He's got the country exactly where he wants it, in his pocket and under his heel. Elections are a farce. Anyone who dares to speak out ends up in jail. The whole system is broken. So where did it all go wrong? Part of the fault lies with the almost limitless power in the hands of the president and his cronies. His presence overshadows the country. There's no limit on the number of times he can be re-elected, and there are few restraints on what he can do. Under his reign, Parliament has no real power, and the courts have limited independence. There's nothing stopping the president from appointing his brother as head of the army, or his cousins and nephews as ambassadors and judges, or handing out state contracts to his friends. The Constitution is too weak to protect the people. It provides no real constraints on the president's abuse of power. Instead of empowering the people, the Constitution suppresses them. The state has become their master instead of being their servant. But fortunately, that's not how the story ended. 5 years ago, the people of Ruritania rose up when they heard that the president was planning to install his son in his place. They knew that their hopes for dignity, justice, equality, and rights would not be realized by simply replacing one dictator with another. They needed to change the rules, so they wrote a new constitution, the foundation upon which a democratic Ruritania would be built. Despite their differences, many groups from across society came together to identify 5 common goals for constitutional change. The most important thing was to reduce the president's excessive power, so they limited his powers in relation to Parliament and the courts, and his ability to make appointments. They introduced term limits so that in the future, a president can only serve 2 terms before someone else must replace him. Another urgent need was to empower people to participate in the political process. So the Constitution allowed the free formation of political parties to give them real choices in future elections. It also created an independent electoral commission to ensure that future elections would be free and fair. Thirdly, they sought to ensure the independence of the judiciary and the due process of law in order to strengthen human rights. This would enable the people to express their views without fear and bring to an end the injustices of the past. The fourth need was to give all citizens a seat at the table. Religious and ethnic minorities, women, and others who were previously excluded were able to insist on new constitutional rules that would protect their rights and ensure their representation in Parliament. Lastly, they agreed that rural areas and the provinces had been ignored, so the new constitution decentralized power, giving local communities more say in their own affairs. Ruritania still isn't perfect, but now the population no longer lives in silence and fear. Increased opportunities for democratic participation enable people to decide what matters to them and their communities. Open competition for political office means that the government must respond to public demands for education, healthcare, and decent roads. If those in power don't listen, or if they don't deliver, they can be voted out. Thanks to the new constitution, the people now have the tools they need to build themselves a brighter future.
I dare say that some of what we heard about Ruritania before they came up with a new constitution sounds an awful lot like the Bahamas. We're going to spade today, right? But yet, Professor, you always talk about how we have such a good, strong constitution. So if that is the case, what is the missing link? Because I'm sitting there listening about what they said about the fictional Ruritania before they came up with a new constitution. I'm thinking, well, blow me down. This sounds like where we live. So what's the missing link? Is it what we've been saying all along on this show? The fact that people have not demanded more, or they just don't know what's in the Constitution, or a combination of all of the above and more? Why are we here? Why are we looking more like Ruritania before they implemented a new constitution? Because we have a good constitution, according to you, Professor. So why are we here?
They did a good job of not teaching the Constitution, not teaching civics, not teaching civil integration. We've basically just been buck up goes. And what happens then is that, again, we've also been indoctrinated into this party system, and where we have created a system of socialism where your success in this country depends on an adherence to the rules, to the dictatorial rules of the party, where the party says you will eat or not eat if you don't support us or whatever else. And so these parties also has an influence externally. So Bahamian people has been disenfranchised. And I would say to you, in my opinion, it's been a deliberate act where you say the sweetness. When we began in 1967, all the way to the Constitution, we had some revelations of our leadership. And I use the expression, and I hear people say this all the time: power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. For me, that's pure foolishness. Here's what's my interpretation. Power reveals the person they pretended not to be. They didn't change them. They now felt that they're secure and they have this power, they could reveal who they truly are. And this is where you begin to look, and we have people in our community that have done an excellent job of cultivating reputations as opposed to competence. And so they want, and this is where they I'm going to farm this particular view I want people to have of me to achieve this particular goal. And that's how he's also been getting bamboozled and led astray by our political leadership. And so, but this is a good time in the 50th year for us to do exactly what I do, exactly what Professor Thompson do, is to get people to at minimum read the Constitution before you even can digest the laws. Read with an intent to understand the Constitution, not all at once. Read the citizenship area, read the judiciary area, read the executive area, and begin to understand each of those sections. And then as you begin to become immersive in it, when you hear people talk about the law, you begin to recognize foolishness on an instant.
Professor, let's get you in on here.
Yes, no, the Constitution that we have today is an excellent document. I will not deviate from that because we have enormous freedoms enshrined in that document. Now, C. Allen was correct when you talk about the party. The Constitution allows for parties, but people need to understand, just like I always draw an analogy between working the BTC and being members in Barnabas Church. We don't get that mixed up. Well, in a given community, see, what we really need actually is a national association of registered constituents. In other words, in a given constituency, you have to understand how the Constitution is set up. It has constituencies. What is common to us in a constituency? Not what a party says they want to do. The people in the constituency, the registered constituents, ought to be saying what it is they want in their constituency. We're not constitutionally organized. We may be in different parties, and this party say this and that party say that. That has its place and time. When it comes to choosing a parliamentary representative, the Bahamian people need to understand that is a totally different kettle of fish, because the way we have been going has not benefited us. Look at Article 6 of the Constitution. What the Privy Council made a ruling on. And that is one of the clearest articles on citizenship where the government has gone wrong over 50 years. Why? Now, the Bahamian people need to ask them why. The point is, you cannot and ought not to keep doing this to yourselves because you're not building anything. You're holding people back. A lot of people have been deprived. The Constitution doesn't go around saying the people should be deprived of their rights and being made slaves and their labor being exploited. All those things have been happening over the last 50 years. We have not corrected it. So what we have to do is, and as C. Allen said, the House of Assembly, the Senate, the government, look at the office of Prime Minister. And let me just comment on this. I describe it as being a gigantic octopus that spreads its tentacles into every single facet of Bahamian life. That's in your Constitution. But the powers are so huge. And the only way under the Constitution you could keep the Prime Minister in check is through your elected representatives. That's in your Constitution.
Okay.
Do people understand that?
But towards that end, I have a comment on Facebook. This comment is coming in from Kentaro Kelly. Kentaro says, how can you say what you need or want in your constituency when you can't find your MP?
Well, I can tell you.
Well, Professor Nancy Allen, you can jump in.
See, the thing is, I understand what the text is sending, right? See, that is why I look at it objectively. You've got to stop choosing people like that, who you can't find, who you cannot see. We haven't been a good judge of character. We have been towing a party line 50 years plus. That has not helped the Bahamian people. You move from this party to that party, this party to that party. Has never helped us in 50 years.
I agree with you, right? But here's the thing. When you, let's say you're a felon, you see this fine gal you want to get with, right? So you catch her attention and, you draw the line and she bites. Now you showing her your bestest behavior, not best. I know that's not proper English, right? You showing her the best version you could possibly be. You know, Bahamian fella's sweet on the tongue.
Yeah.
So you telling all the sweet things she want here, and you treating her nice, and you courting her nice, and Man, she fall hook, line, and sinker for you. And then she takes the next step.
But
And then she find out who the real you is. When she done gone down the aisle, now the real you come out. And
but
you
Michelle,
in the street talking, flowers buying, fella who you presented yourself to be. But she's stuck with you, or is she in this case? Go ahead, C. Allen.
well, here's the problem is, that's a good analogy, right? But we don't elect leaders like that. In fact, we elect people that don't even know what the party blueprint or manifestos are. Then you ask them, they say it's over there. And so again, we're not even electing people that is competent in their party. They're simply party supporters, party loyalists.
We accept whoever the party sent.
Whatever, right? So I'm saying to you, if you, and we accept even individuals that's not even necessarily within the constituency. They say we need you to go over here and you need to go over there. And so I'm saying we're not even using common sense in our selection to even say that we were swung. We just have to individually with our constituency. You said, how do you tell an MP you don't see? Well, you didn't see him before the election. That was a message right there that you wouldn't see him after. But you have community leaders, and this is what will cause community leaders to come up and actually even compete against each other for the ambitions of serving in the House of Assembly. And so if you have people within your community competing to serve your community, you could only end up with better service. So you would not be choosing a person within your community that they sent you. You'll be choosing the best of the best from within your community who can best represent the interests that your community wants to have happen, rather than some guy who says, this is the manifesto, but I don't know what's on what page or what I think, any page. And I've tested this on a number of sitting members of the current administration and of the previous administration, because I suffer from a thing where I can remember most things I read. And I asked them, what about this? What about this? What about that? And they don't know. We're in a digital revolution right now, where I've asked members of parliament now, do you know what's in the blueprint for change? About 80% of them I've spoken to so far don't know what's in the blueprint. And so we went for the noise in the marketplace. We somehow seem to have a love for electing midgets with megaphones. They make a lot of noise and absolutely none. Absolutely nothing. And so we just have to stop that. We can actually make a difference in the next election by demanding leadership within our communities to present themselves to go to parliament. And I promise you, if they feel that the majority of the people within your community wants a leader from that community that can best serve them, you'll see a change in those that office themselves. And the parties will be hard pressed to choose from among those leaders, as opposed to some clown they send you for the circus they intend to have for 5 years.
I'll even take it a step further than what C. Allen said. What he's saying is correct. I appreciate that. Now, here's what I say to people. You need to get to know the people on your street. Now, I've learned to get along with people for more than 50 years without getting personal. And see, this is another problem that we have on the ground in the community, where people get personal into the personal affairs of other people. What we have to understand is we need numbers, real numerical strength when you're talking about choosing a representative in a given constituency. You got to get the best possible person to be the next representative in your constituency. And I'm saying to the Bahamian people is, you need to know your people. You need to understand what is common in that particular constituency. What are the problems in that particular constituency? How do you intend to go about changing things? The people in the constituency. That's why I said a National Association of Registered Constituents. You can organize constitutionally. Okay? We have to understand the makeup of our parliament. You have constituencies. So you need the constituents in that particular constituency working together for a common cause and purpose. Not to be tearing down one another, not to be getting in one another's personal affairs. We who live there ought to be communicating together. That's why I tell people, get to know the people on your street. Then go around the corner, talk to those people on the other street.
then go even further and get them to come, and you will find that with this interaction among constituents regarding issues that affect that particular constituency. See, we don't do these things. These are important for proper representation in the House of Assembly. But we have these fellas who come up and talk about they speak on behalf of the good people of a particular constituency, and you never saw the man in his life
Always the
or
good
the woman in
people.
his life.
I stand on behalf
So
of the good people of
exactly.
this.
So we know that's as a farce. That's a fraud.
All right.
And the Bahamian people need to realize and understand we must change the way we've been sending people to the House of Assembly. That's why you always see me draw the analogy between St. Barnabas Church. It could be any other church now. I'm not picking on St. Barnabas Church, but that's just a church that's come to my head. And I've used it quite often. And BTC. Well, how is it you could get on so well in BTC with all these different people, with all these different views, but people in the same community where they live, the same constituency, we can't get our act together?
But here's something that we seem to be missing, gentlemen, that we have to take into consideration. Then I have to take a break. We are talking about an entrenchment of a culture of the way we behave as it relates to politics in this country that goes back decades. This is a culture that is deeply entrenched in who we are as a people. Now, I do believe that this younger generation that is up and coming now are perhaps the first generation in a long time that has been able to sort of break free of that stranglehold of that culture. A young man who called the show on Thursday or Friday, I don't remember which one, was saying, you know, y'all on here talking to yourself, but he's 30 years old and frustrated, and he's like, we ain't listening to y'all. So perhaps this is the first generation in many, many years who can break free of that deeply entrenched culture. But here's the problem, and I'm going to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers to reemphasize the point that I'm about to make. Here's the problem. He says, never seen the Bahamas Constitution in my life. Keeping citizens dumb is top priority. Here's the problem. You got these young people who are disenfranchised, who angry, who frustrated. The information is right at your fingertips. But yet you refuse to educate yourself. Back in my day, I would have had to go in one library or pull out one encyclopedia. Or you understand what I'm saying? I had to go dig for this information. Today, there's this wonderful invention called Google. All you gotta do is type that thing in, boom! Within seconds, you could have a copy of your Constitution. So, what is your excuse?
Michelle, can I do a slight rebuttal right before your break?
Quick.
In spite of you having that, you had a teacher. This is where Professor.
I understand that, but it begins with your desire to have your desire to be taught.
Right, this I was saying to you. But in school, they let you know, and so now we are telling people there is something, there's a tool for you. And I think it's important that we continue these shows and continue this conversation to let them know there's a tool. I'm sure that person now that they're aware, it can be found, there's a tool. But still, you have Professor Thompson, myself, and others, and your show that acts as a guide for them now. Because information is just information. Comprehension is knowledge.
All right.
Can I
go real quick, Professor,
okay,
real quick.
Listen, no, see, Alan is correct. The point is, yes, there's vast information out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's been on the internet for years. But where is the level of understanding? The point is, now, young people get angry and upset, fine. I can accept that. But now let us calm down now and begin to use the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas because it's a very valuable document. It's your salvation document, and you're not going to get anywhere if you don't use it properly. It's just as simple as that. You'll end up having more chaos, more confusion, because I had a young man call me on the phone. He was saying all kinds of strange things. And I said, son, it doesn't go that way. We don't need what you are talking about. all that's going to create more confusion. You want us to be like Sudan? Come on, man. The point is, our mothers and fathers have fought so hard, and we have had from 1729 right on up to now, change administrations in this country without firing one shot. Do we want to destroy that by causing unnecessary confusion in this country? Did the people see how peaceful the last election was? Do they understand that God has a way of dealing with things? Do we trust God? The Constitution talks about the supremacy of God. Are we willing to work with God to guide us, as he was doing from the beginning? Because when we had the change in 1973, it was the elderly people, the middle-aged people, and for the first time, young people, 18 years old, were able to choose in the governance of your country. And in 1970, we became an independent nation.
All right, we got to take a break. Time done gone. 16 minutes left in the show. Wow. All right, let's take this break. On the other side of the break, we will get as much as we can in on this topic. And I really hope that the show was successful today in clearing up some of the confusion that was clearly out there. Because like I said last week, for those of you who were taking issue with what Cialan was saying, basically he was saying the same thing what the professor was saying. Cialan just got to learn to stop talking over people's head. But we'll be back after these words of our sponsors. Stay with us.
Global paradigm shift will return after this.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all. Schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
One of the things I love about the mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy, with mailboat to U.S. addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and on-board lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the Mailboat. We're bridging people, products, and places.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
All right, welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson, and C. Alan Johnson. This is a masterclass Monday on the Constitution, and we have digressed from the digression where we digressed.
Yes, we have. We didn't go too far.
No, but not far at all. But, clarity is rooted in comprehension.
Yes.
So it makes no sense for us to be putting this information out there if people aren't comprehending what it is that we're saying. And I'm grateful to the callers last week who made me aware of the confusion that was starting to set in, because they didn't quite understand what C. Alan was trying to say last week. Because remember, I did say to one caller, but I am saying nothing yet would contradict what the professor say. Yeah. It's just that his way of communicating sometimes. Yeah. C. Alan got to learn how to, make it plain so a 6-year-old can understand.
Exactly.
Because
I want to teach the college people, professor teach the high school.
Say that again.
I'll teach the college people, professor teach the high school, because they both don't know.
Let me just say this. I've listened to him very carefully today. He has not said anything that's not constitutionally sound. I have to give it to him.
Right.
It is just that he has a different way of explaining things, and I have a different method. We are two different personalities, but we all agree that the Constitution is the thing that we need.
Right.
We have got to help people to understand how to use it. Now, I told people about being constitutionally organized on the ground in their constituencies. And I talk about the possible National Association of Registered Constituents. We're going to need that. The people in a particular constituency ought to be setting the master plan for that constituency. How come we're not doing that?
Mm-hmm.
But people got to be organized. This is all in your Constitution. You are supposed to be calling the shots. Article 24(1) says you are to protect your interests. You have not been doing that. You allow it some other people in another place to say they can protect your interests for you. The Constitution doesn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people have to be organized. And of course, I'll give my number at the end of the show. If people want to call me after the show, because see, I am very much.
You can give it out now. You can give it out now.
465-5786.
Again?
465-5786.
Mm-hmm.
And for you college students, 825-9700.
What's the other thing?
Say for the college students.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Give the number again, Scallon.
825-9700. Just let me make a quick point what Professor says. This is why an educator is important. We have, for instance, we have this penal law concerning the needing a permit to march. When you read the Constitution, you'll understand that that is a misinterpretation of where you should notify the people that for good governance, that's where you notify them. Even though you have this particular right, you don't want to have a disturbance. You also want to be protected. And we have now allowed them to misconstrue this, that you need permission to express yourself, even though there's a permission for the law for good governance, but we should never let them blend two parts of the Constitution to then invalidate the Constitution by saying, yes, you can do this over here, yes, you can do this over here. But combine, like you said, when you combine two things, you don't have the same one thing anymore. And so But understanding your rights as the Constitution presents them to you allows you to now look at the laws individually and invalidate them piece by piece, rather than being told this is what it is, or somebody try to talk around you believe it to be something it's not.
No, I agree with C. Allen on that. He's 100% correct on that point. That is why you need to evaluate these things that they're passing in the House of Assembly. Now, we got one that was passed way back then, which is not constitutionally sound. In fact, I didn't even know it was so far back that would have been the first one that I would tackle live on air and show the inconsistencies in that particular piece of legislation. And there are many others, okay, that we have. So when a government fails miserably on Article 6 of your Constitution, which is the clearest article on citizenship.
Yes, clearest.
There's one. And they fail miserably. I won't talk about the others now. But that's one. How did the government of the Bahamas miss it, Bahamians? You got to let them tell you what happened.
But
you got to put pressure on them for that.
But we as a collective have to take some responsibility as well, because we allowed ourselves to remain in the dark.
Because we were told was in the dark.
Because they should not have been able to get away with that for 50 years.
No, they told us. They told us. We never had the opportunity to read it ourselves. We depended on them to keep telling us this is what it says. And it's only when we began to read it and go, wait a minute. This is the only one where we don't have to interpret father or mother, instead parents. And this is embarrassment to those that holds the title of Privy Council. For people who don't know, QCs and KCs are members of the Privy Council who are guardians of the Constitution. And they've been misleading us. And just one more point, for instance, they say that women are discriminated against the Constitution, but when you read number 9, there is a provision there. That's not a discrimination, nor is the discrimination that doesn't allow me as a single Bahamian man to pass on citizenship to in an unmarried situation. Why? Because there was a reason for those things that was put in the Constitution, and it makes sense if we ever have a conversation in context, as opposed to politicians with agenda to bring about agenda change. They are A to it, agenda to bring about agenda environment. And so what they do is they try to water down the Constitution or your belief that you have in the Constitution, then they can tell you anything.
So that's why and Say Allen is 100% correct on all that he just said. The point is the Bahamian people have to see who the real culprits are in this issue. They are clearly identified. The persons who you gave authority to run your national affairs, that's where the real problem is. Not the Constitution, because there's no discrimination. When you hear them talk about discrimination in the supreme law, they're talking foolishness and nonsense. There's no such thing. But that's what they have placed in the minds of unsuspecting Bahamians to believe, because they say it, QC, BC, AC, whatever they are, to mislead and deceive the Bahamian people. But thank God, September the 8th, last year, that all broke up. Bahamian people, you cannot allow elected personalities who have appointed other people to carry out their bidding on Article 6 and some other articles. You ain't see the rest yet, but it's coming.
They're coming.
What they have done against the Bahamian people all these years, and as C. Allen said, is what they tell you. Now we're beginning to see, and I'm happy that the Bahamian will wake up, and Bahamians, you got to stay alert now. It's going to cost a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of funding to be able to correct these wicked things that have been done to the Bahamian people. You are going to have to play your role as a constituent. And I said, I gave my number 465-5786, because Bahamians, there's a lot of work to be done to bring change for the betterment of this country. I had to wait 50 years. That's too long. We can't go from that to 54 years in 6 months. Come on.
Final thoughts, yeah. One minute.
One of the things they did was they moved where you could have a judicial review that you have to put up this $250,000 for cost. So now they've made it this benchmark where I want to go and challenge another one of these constitutional things. I have to come up with $250,000. Imagine this.
Yeah.
I am challenging my government to do what I want them to do, and my government tells me that I have to give them $250,000 for costs. And should they lose, guess who pays it? So I mean, I pay on both sides. Because if the government lose, I still pay. And so these are things to do to inhibit us becoming what we're supposed to be and becoming what they want.
Gentlemen, I want to say thank you both for being here today, and hopefully your presence here today will have clarified this matter enough that people will understand that what y'all basically was saying was the same thing.
Same thing.
And we got to get our act together as a people.
As a people, yes.
Demand more so that we can get more, and rightfully what we deserve. But that's my time, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Bahamas. Read Bahamas, read.
Time is gone, people. It's less than a minute to 4. Got to get out of here. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Masterclass Monday. We have another great show planned for you tomorrow, so don't you miss it. And if you haven't already done so, let everybody know they need to watch this show today, okay? So we can clear up this confusion. Until tomorrow, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Readers of